Corbolic V2. This is a super safe and effective natural anabolic. Not only is this product going to help you increase protein synthesis, which basically means muscle recovery and growth, it also may inhibit myostatin, which is a protein in your body that is known to inhibit muscle growth. This is a complete natural anabolic that works through multiple different pathways, has multiple trademarked ingredients. If you are a natural athlete looking for that edge, Corbolic V2 is what you need. Get yourself some.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the code now. Take that, everybody else's intros.
Oh, I think that was definitely the best intro.
You know, I just like to think that I'm the best in many things.
Yeah.
God damn it. It's like I don't even try to like have these ideas, you know? But it's just like, man, it really ties into exactly what we were going to talk about today.
I love it.
And it's one of those things where it's like it's I would say probably more specifically, we'll talk about it in the context of like competition, physique competition, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. But I mean, and I think it also ties in well to a lot of other things in life. But I think like there's this different dynamic when it comes to like the idea of bodybuilding and physique competitions, where most of us get into it maybe in our 20s, in our 30s, in our 40s at a later point in life. And realistically, with other sports, we don't tend to get into those and try to be high level at them later on in life. If I'm playing soccer, if I'm playing football, if I'm playing baseball, I would play in a youth league. And then I would go play in like middle school or high school. And if I'm good enough, then maybe I get to go and I get to play in college and I get to go to that level. And then if I was really good, I got a scholarship. And then if I'm still really good and stand out, then I might get a professional league contract and I might get an offer. Or I might get a minor league offer and then work my way up from there. But there's like all these different tipping points where you're either going to get filtered out or you're going to get kept in and go up. And so as you're aging and you're going through all these other things in life, you either make the grade or you don't. And in bodybuilding, there's nothing that does that. There is no filter that says, hey, you're just, you're done. Like, you no longer have the opportunity to bodybuild. Because you can always go to the gym. You can always sign up for a show. Like, you can always do it. And so there's not that same dynamic to it, and I feel like that fucks with people.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think, too, that's where, like, honesty should probably come in, because I've had coaches in my past say to me, I think you have completed being in your prime, and I think you're out of your prime. And I've had to be like, I'm sorry, what? But in retrospect, I kind of appreciate that, because it was honesty and letting me know that, like, this sport, there probably is a time that you are in your prime and like you are doing really, really well. I think with any athletic adventure, right? Like, there's a prime that you're in, and then you just aren't as sharp. And maybe no one wants to hear that. Like, maybe that's just something people don't want to hear.
I mean, they definitely don't want to hear it. Can't speak from experience. Because I have, I don't know, fortunately, unfortunately, told multiple women that they are not in their prime anymore, with mixed results. Not just necessarily in bodybuilding, Sometimes people just, they think a lot of themselves. You got to bring them down a peg. And I'm like at the bottom peg as it is, so, hey, come on. Let's party together, y'all. But it is that weird dynamic of, and this is where I think the hard part for me is, can we progress and can we get better? Yeah. Is that going to bridge the gap between where we are and where we say or we think we want to be? And that's, for me, the hard part with the bodybuilding stuff, because again, there's no hard liner of, all right, you're done. That's it. Like, no more competing for you. You're not allowed. You didn't make the cut. You didn't make the grade. So you can either go rec league There's no like rec league. Like all bodybuilding at the amateur level is essentially rec league. So you can either do that or that's it. But you're never competitive again. That's it. And I think that really, it presents a challenge for a lot of people psychologically in terms of how much they're investing into it. And I'm not here to say like you shouldn't invest in bodybuilding. And I think this is where a lot of people misinterpret my stance on this or my opinion. I think bodybuilding can be absolutely great. I think if bodybuilding is the only thing that you have, that's a problem. And I think that there should be like guardrails. Like people don't tend to have guardrails with bodybuilding. And from what I see, it's because it does take a lot. It's very, very in-depth. It's overbearing to some degree. It's intense. You got to pay attention to every meal, every day. You got to make all your workouts happen for the most part. You got to do your cardio. You got to practice you got to do all these things. And so that's a lot on your plate. If I'm playing baseball, I might have practice 1 or 2 times a week. I might have a game once a week. But the rest of the time, if I want to do baseball, it's just because I want to go play catch or I want to go out and play a game with friends. And bodybuilding has like this different aura to it for a lot of people. And so that normal, oh, well, this is my line of things that are acceptable for this to overtake and things that aren't. This is my line of what I'm comfortable with or what I'm not comfortable with. And once you start getting into that, those lines that were maybe a little bit more, I think, defined from the outside of the experience become very, very blurry for people. And that can make things really difficult to where, I've seen people ruin relationships, marriages. I've seen all sorts of things happen for people just being too invested in the sport. And then now they don't even compete anymore. So what was the point of losing something that were maybe really important to you for something that you're not even doing anymore? Because I don't know anybody that's in the middle of bodybuilding and competing and prepping that is like, yeah, I'm never going to do this again. Maybe on the last season. Maybe right going into the last show, you're like, yeah, fuck this, I don't want to do this anymore. But that's the only time. And you've already made the decision at that point. Like, it's already there. But nobody else is ever like, yeah, I'm just going to never bodybuild again. Fuck this. There's always a plan of, I'm going to keep working out. I'm going to keep doing the cardio. I'm going to keep competing. Even if it's not tomorrow, maybe it's 3 or 4 years away, I'm still going to do another show. And so, like, that almost intentionality of, well, I'm in it, I'm obviously going to stay in it forever, can fuck people. And, like, not in a good way, right?
If maybe it's asking, like, in the very beginning, what do you want to get out of this? Like, what do you actually want to get from this in doing this, right? And then continuing to ask that question, are you still getting that? Are you still getting what you wanted out of this? And is it still really intentional around that? Because I think it sometimes becomes like, well, what else would I do? Like, who else am I? What else would I do? And there's like a gazillion different things, right? Like, I think being able to say, maybe you set it up in the very beginning, but I don't think I think some people do that, but then they forget about it. Like, they'll be like, I really want to do well, and I would like to achieve my pro card. And then I'm like, okay, and then what though? Say you achieve your pro card. Then what? Do you want to continue? Because this is a long marathon. Like, it is not a short little sprint. And I was asked that when I first started competing, like, are you down for the marathon or do you just want to sprint out of it? And for me specifically, I wanted like a half marathon. and like being able to know that I don't want this to be my all, but I definitely want to invest a large portion of my time and years of life in it, and I was okay with that in the very beginning. And then I had to like ask myself again, hey, remember that time that you just wanted a half a marathon and you've invested like this much into it? We weren't going for a marathon, so are you like recoursing everything? And are you okay with that too? Because I think sometimes we're either our ego, this is a very, well, you could tell me if you think otherwise, but I think sometimes this is a very ego-driven sport, or it can be. There's ego that's very much involved with it. So when our
100%.
yeah, when our ego is like stroked and stroked and stroked and stroked, like, and we're just going after things, like we lose sight of what we actually wanted in the first place.
Well, and this is one of those weird things because it's like an ego thing. A lot of people take pride in this idea, like I work really hard. I go into the gym and it's a war and it's a fight and I'm battling in there every day. And I'm like, well, I've done, combat sports stuff. I'm like, it's not a fight. It's not easy. It definitely it takes a lot of work. It takes some mental fortitude and some ability to deal with discomfort and the rest of the stuff. But it's not a fight. Because when I go to the gym, there's no winner or loser in that every time. Right? People say I won or I beat myself. I lost. I'm like, yeah, dude. But if you understand the reality of what weight training is, like you're gonna have overreaching periods where you're really hitting PRs and everything's going crazy and you're like, I'm strong as shit, son. And then you're gonna have times of deloads where all your volume's down, or maybe you overtrained and you're in this spot where now your performance is really impacted negatively. And it's like, so those are all parts of the same process, which is getting better, right? We want to train, we want to overreach, we want to recover, and over and over and over, we're stronger, we have more muscle, we're quote unquote better over time. But that also, like, those returns diminish. And maybe that's part of it too, because like when you first start and we're first getting into it, either you're just getting into training and you're still pretty new to it, so you're getting a lot more response, or maybe it's a completely different type of training. And so again, you're getting a fairly substantial response, all things considered. But that just gets slower and slower and slower the more that you train. And so maybe that's part of it too. It's like, okay, that high is really good at first. Like, oh yeah, look at how much better I'm getting. Like, look at all this progress. And then you're in it for 5 years plus. You're like, shit, I kind of look the same, but I've been training, as I did 6 months ago. But I'm a little bit stronger. Maybe there's some small differences here. And so I always got to wonder, like, how do we better manage that of, hey, look, I know we used to have these feelings with this thing, right? Because one of the things I got kind of washed out of music. I used to think I was going to be a professional musician. I was like, I'm going to rock hard, and this is going to be great. And I'm going to do lots of drugs and party with lots of women and see the world, and it's going to be so much fun, and I'm going to slap at the bass, and it's blah, 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 whatever, right? Joke's on me. Nope, dog. Hard no. But I was like, okay, I'm just not good enough. I'm solid. I'm good. I can do a lot of things. I can settle into plenty of places. But when it comes to, am I good enough to be at that level? No, I'm just not. And the hard part with that is nobody tells you really either. All your friends want to support you. All the people around you are like, yeah, you're doing what you love. Stay out till 3 a.m. for, $15 for the band. Cool. But like I washed out. I wasn't good enough. And like, thank God, because now I find the things that I'm better at, hopefully, which is coaching, and helping other people to make progress towards their goals. You got to stop muting. I'll deal with the sound thing afterwards.
I know. No, I absolutely agree with you. And what I would say, like the honesty part, it's really hard. I think like this sport, bodybuilding, is it should kind of be unapologetically honest. Because if you really want to do your best with things, you should have that tough love, honesty, and not hurtfulness. That's completely different. Like, it's not being hurtful, it's being very honest. I just recently have a client who's doing a show coming up, and she said to me, will I be ready? And I'm like, no. Like, the level of leanness that is desired for you in figure is, we still have about 15 pounds to go. So realistically, if you want me to be very honest with you, no, we will not be bringing the best package on stage. Have you done an amazing job, and have you been able to progress? And like 100%, but I'm not gonna like candy coat things for you so that you're kind of like oblivious to the nature of the beast. Like, you should know all that is involved, and if you are able to get there, like, there should be that honesty instead of stroking the ego all the time of like, you're great, you're gonna do amazing, like, you got this, it's phenomenal, your physique is intense. Sometimes you need to hear no.
So I think a lot of that comes from the marketing aspect of things, right?
Yeah.
You can look like me. I want to look like this person. Simple steps to get shredded like me, or to, get the bikini bottom you want, or yada, yada, yada. And like, because I don't feel like the glass ceiling in competition is conditioning for most people. Like, conditioning overall, like, we can either do what it takes or not. For a lot of people, the hard part about that is staying leaner in your off season, handling your reverse, not putting on weight post diet the same, and setting yourself into a position where, like, okay, I only maybe have to lose 15 pounds to be where I need to be at for stage. Maybe 20, right? Say 10% of your body weight, blah, blah, blah. There's a bunch of different ways to kind of look at it. So I don't think conditioning is really the problem for most people. The standard for conditioning, especially like NPC and stuff, has definitely gotten very high. And so, yeah, that's fucking hard. But most people can achieve that if they set themselves up for success. And again, that's not as easy for everybody. But I think there's this inherency that we don't talk about. Because normally it's like, oh, I just need to get better conditioning. It's like, oh, I need to be a little bit fuller. Like, sometimes fuller just means you need more muscle. And if I've been training for 15 or 20 years, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to do more than what I'm doing now. Like, I'm not going to do the drugs. I'm not going to do the XYZ. I'm just not going to happen. I'll still make a little bit of progress, but I'm probably, if I've been consistent with my training and doing all the things for a decade, you're probably not going to get too much crazy better than that all of a sudden, unless, again, you've been doing something wrong. Like, oh, wrong. Which normally isn't the case because it's not as complicated as most people like it to be. This is where, and I don't know if I talked about this last week, but I had a call and somebody was asking me, okay, where do you think my potential lies in the sport? I said, look, well, you need some more glutes, sure. Okay, that's going to be your biggest thing for bikini. Do I think you can make it to the pro league? Yeah, I think you can make it to the pro league. You have a really good base of muscle. A lot of your other body parts are quite muscular and developed, so those are like good things. That's a good indicator that you probably respond pretty well to training and can put on that muscle well. But I think that, when you get to the pro league, you're going to have a hard time, because that's where things really start to separate some more of people that are, maybe their waists are just a little bit smaller, or their shoulders are a little bit wider, and their insertions are a little bit different, so they have more of that bubbliness, or their tie-ins are a little bit lower, so they have that look, and it gets the shape with the right conditioning and that kind of stuff, where if I have higher tie-ins, typically got to get leaner, and that can sometimes bite people in the butt, right? And I'm like, man, I'm so not a good salesman, because nobody wants to hear, okay, cool, I think you can get the pro card, but I think realistically, with my experience, that's probably about the end of the road. We might get into some second call-outs and first call-outs, depending, but winning a show and doing the things to go to the Olympia, I don't think that's in the cards for us. It's like, well, that person's never going to sign up with me, right? Because they're like, oh, you don't believe in me. It's like, no, it's not that I don't believe in you. It's because if I tell you, and this is how I view it, if I tell you that you're going to go to the NBA, that you're going to go to the NHL, that you're going to go to the Olympia, now that process of getting there, a lot more doors are open, because you've already decided that that is where you're going to be. That you got it, 100%. And it's like, I don't think all those doors should be open. I think those lines should be drawn pretty substantially. And I know that can be very, I don't even know if controversial, but it's widely accepted in the industry, right? In the bodybuilding community. And I'm like, but it doesn't have to be. And for me, it's just like, okay, well, do you want to have kids later on in life? Yeah, I do. Okay, well, certain things might impact that. Well, yeah. Do you care about, some of these other X, Y, and Z examples? Yeah, I care about that a lot. Okay, well then, even though you might be able to minimize risk, and I think this is the difference, is that a lot of people are talking about, are we minimizing risk and that's what makes us doing it right? There's still risk there. And I think that this idea that if we've minimized risk, we've eliminated risk. And that to me is like a misnomer that's important to recognize. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe it's having it be a step-by-step thing too. Like being, like we could achieve this. Can we just focus on achieving this right now? And then once we get there, then we can talk about like, what would you want the next thing to be? And then what does that entail? And like, then we would be able to kind of go back to the drawing boards and say, given where we're at, given what we have, are we able to, now we're shifting to like a new goal. So have it be your person going from amateur, now they can get their pro card. And then at that time discussing, well, what am I going to be able to do on a pro level? And because you might find that you're really just happy achieving one goal at a time. Like maybe you're just happy achieving that goal, and by the time you hit that goal, you can actually be more present in that goal that you just achieved, and you celebrate your wins there instead of thinking about but what's next, right?
So I feel like that used to be easier though. So I feel like this has been another change that I've noticed in people that I talk to, is that it used to be like, hey, I want to do a show.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So our first goal should be, let's make sure that we look like we belong and do well in our classes that that we sign up for. That's awesome. And then when we won a class, or if we won an overall, then like, oh my gosh, this was amazing. What's next? It's like, well, if you want to, we can go to nationals. There's this big difference now, I feel like, that most people I talk to, they're already thinking about Pro League and Olympia kind of vibes before I've ever said a word to them.
Mm-hmm.
So like maybe they've only done one show. They didn't win their show, and they're like, oh yeah, no, I gotta go pro, gotta do this. I was like, I mean, we got stuff to do before we go pro. And that's where that conversation comes in for me, because I'm like, all right, well, one, we need to back up because you're so far ahead. And then I think that's also the other thing that makes people more impatient, is that you're looking at this very far end goal the entire time instead of looking at what's actually should be directly in front of you.
Yeah, I do feel that I have noticed that shift too. And maybe it's just like the social media part of it, that like maybe there aren't a lot of like amateurs talking about like their first show, right? Like maybe in the fitness world, or maybe they are. I'm not that like.
I don't think there are anymore. I think you're right. I think like the elitism, right? The ego-driven stuff has kind of driven a lot of those people out.
Yes.
Where it used to be like you would have first-time competitors or local and maybe national level competitors, and they have these big followings. And a lot of those people either succeeded and went to the pro league, and then whatever happened, they succeeded there or not, or they just kind of dropped off because they weren't as competitive as they wanted to be. Mm-hmm. So even though you're really super popular and you have a great following and all this stuff, like if I have that, am I going to post about me not winning all the time? No, it kind of takes away from the romanticism of it, right? So I do think that, in that aspect, I don't really see a lot of that kind of content being pushed out. I don't see a lot of people talking about it. And it's either like one end of the spectrum or the other. It's either like your absolute top level athletes that are, trying to make a living off of this and do that kind of stuff, or it's like the people that are just absolutely brand new to it and excited, and after 6 or 12 months, they're kind of like, okay, what's next? Because it's a lot of work to be posting and doing all the social media stuff. Let's be real.
It is. Yes, absolutely. Maybe it's a sense of urgency too, where we're like missing out on. I know that people don't like this all the time, but like we're missing out on the journey of it all, and we're just waiting and like rushing to get to the end goal, but not realizing that so much happens when you're on your way there. Like the destination is fantastic, but the road trip is pretty fucking cool too. Sorry.
No, I've already cussed more than that. But the reality is we used to be, and I think this is something that media in general has changed, right? I remember waking up, growing up, early 90s. It was like you kind of knew the people on your street, and you didn't have everything in front of you all the time. I wasn't always looking at the Housewives of Beverly Hills or whatever other stuff that's showing me all this luxury, all this stuff that other people have that I don't. Right? So for one, it was easier to be, I think, content and happier within what you were doing, because you weren't constantly being shown the things you don't have, or how you don't have enough, or how you may or may not be good enough. And so like that's a different thing where, like, man, you have to almost be very intentional about shutting that shit off nowadays, or having those barriers up of like, nah, dude, I have a really good life. Like, I'm very happy. I really enjoy what I'm doing, right? I'm kind of on a break from a lot of physical activity and lifting in the gym and that stuff right now. It's been like a couple months. I'm enjoying it, Well, I'm enjoying most of it, So it's not a bad thing. I'll go back. I just don't want to do it right now. But if I'm online all the time, all I'm thinking about is, shit, look at all these people with all this muscle. Look at all these people doing all this stuff. I was like, what's wrong with me? I was like, man, sometimes you get in a funk. Sometimes you just want something different for a little while, You don't want to go to some people love going to the same restaurant all the time. I like a little bit of variety, a little life spice, dog.
Yeah.
Because then also, like, when I go back, guess what? Now I'm going to be more excited about it. Like, cool. So I do think there's something to be said for that, shutting off the external inputs all the time. And like, really settling back into just your immediate kind of what's around you, who do you interact with, who do you see, but your immediate life. Because nowadays we're constantly bombarded with this idea that we have to worry about people that are 1,000 miles away, that we're never going to meet, that are never ever going to have any impact on our lives.
Yeah.
Like, that's fucked up.
Agree. Another thing that I think is important for people to explore, a lot of the times, like if a client or a new client comes in and they show me like a picture, they'll be like, well, I want to have abs like her, or like, this is who I want to be like. And I'll say, fantastic, tell me more about them. Like, have you like scrolled all the way back to the very beginning? Because I want to know more. You're showing me where they're at today, but like, I know that they didn't just come out of the womb like that. So I wish that more people did the scrolling back. If they're really, really motivated by these people or inspired by these people, to be able to say, say it's just an aesthetic motivation. They're saying, I love this physique. It's very motivating to me. It inspires me. Maybe you should ask more questions and dig a little bit deeper. Well, tell me more about them and explore the beginning of their journey, instead of just being like, this is where they're at now, so this is what I want to get to.
Have you ever seen a ripped baby? Like, just fucking shredded? Like, 2 days old, just rah.
No.
Me either. I mean, that would be impressive though, right?
Yeah. Or like adolescents, like, I want to know like what they've done. They started somewhere. And you know what's sad? I think sometimes too, this is something that I've seen, because I purposely will do that, because I'm so curious of like, that is so interesting that is where they're at in their life. I will be the one to be like, this might take like a couple of minutes, but I'm going to keep going. And then I'll notice that they've deleted all the things from like their beginning. And I don't even get a chance to know. And what is visually what's shown to me is that this has been their everything all the time, forever and ever. Like, this is who they are, and there was no beginning. It was just boop, there they are.
So I think also in that same kind of vibe, townhouse, whatever, I don't know, is when, like I say, I'm almost 40 now, right? And if I put a side-by-side of me when I was 16 or 18 next to me now, from 20 years difference, I'm like, look how much I've changed. But like, yeah, of course. That's 20 years. And so I do think that with some of these side-by-side, even when we do possibly show those earlier years and those things. Like the idea that, oh shit, yeah, he changed, but he literally was doing this for 10 years consistently for that change. And so the context of that gets lost in the shuffle of social media marketing and the pretty click for likes thing, you know?
Yeah, that is something I make sure to show my clients, because they'll say, well, I saw on Instagram like one of your updates, and they'll say, "Oh, thank you so much. Like, I appreciate that. Let me send you a picture of when I first started." And they'll be like, "That's you." I'm like, "Yeah, dude. Like, this is me 20 years ago, and like this is where I first started." Or they'll tell me, "I don't look like that at all," and I'm like, "Neither did I, actually. Funny thing, I didn't look like that either." But over the course of time, things have changed and evolved, and this is what I did consistently, or these are the variables that I incorporated into my day-to-day to get me here. But it took a long time too to get there, so it didn't just start out of nowhere.
So I think, you know, if we kind of tie that back into like, how do we figure out if we're at our glass ceiling? I mean, we talked a little bit about like the time that you've been training is a big part of that. Mm-hmm. Have you been doing this for a year or two? Okay, well, guess what? You're probably not even close to where you need to be looking at that. You're still going to make some good progress. Have you been doing this for a decade? Okay, then maybe now this is a little bit more of a reasonable conversation to have. But I think one of the other things is bodybuilding is legitimately just some people's opinions about how, like, what looks nice, what's visually appealing, right? For muscularity, shape, bone structure, all that kind of stuff. So when it comes into like the criteria that you're looking at, and this is where you can say, okay, well, maybe my glass ceiling is here and I liked competing in figure and that's what I really wanted to do. But I have a lot more opportunity to grow if I move to bikini because I fit that criteria better. And this can be one conversation that we can have about, okay, what is our goal with competing? Is it to be as competitive as possible? Is it to do whatever? Great. Then we can like lock those things in. I've had plenty of people where I'm like, hey, you will be more competitive in bikini. And they're like, yeah, well, I want to do women's physique though because I don't want to wear heels and I like the posing routine and I want to flex my muscles on stage. All right, cool. All right, as long as you know, we've had the conversation, we have realistic expectations. But the other thing that comes down to that is this genetic influence. And this is what we have to like almost fight against in many, many occasions. Because this idea of hard work breeds success. Fuck yeah, it does. I'm not saying it doesn't. But I'm only going to be able to work so hard. I can only breed so much success. I will have limiting factors. Don't try and put me in an astrophysicist position and think that I'm just going to hard work my way into success there. Nah, dude, I'm going to be out of work real quick. Probably not a good therapist either. You know, don't try and talk to me about everything. Wrong profession, Steven. Right? Joke's on me. But like,
Probably not the best profession for you.
yeah. But like, my bone structure matters. Are my shoulders wide enough? Are my clavicles wide enough to where I can have that really crazy look that they want in men's physique? Nah, probably not. And even if they are, my waist isn't small enough to go along with them to give that impression. So no matter what I do, I can put more muscle on. I can do things to put more muscle on, right? I can go different routes and get on all the PEDs. I still have the same bone structure. My muscles originate and insert in the same spot. So I might have bigger muscles, but they're still like, I'm still gonna have the same generalized look. So if my look just doesn't fit the criteria for what these people have decided the sport is and is going to be, okay, does that make sense to make that something that I'm putting my everything into on a regular basis? Or should it be something where I say, okay, cool, I enjoy it, I love the lifestyle, I love the activity, I love trying to improve and better myself, but I see this for what it is. and I see my ability to succeed or how high I can go with this for what it is. And because of that, because I've taken that time to step back and be really objective and say, okay, well, these people maybe, their glutes are a little bit different and they have this stuff. Like, I'm going to take a step back and be, okay, so maybe it's not worth investing quite everything into.
Right.
That's, and it's hard, and you get this, and I'll shut up for a second after this. The sport really, it pulls in the all or nothing people.
100%. Yeah. And I think that it's so important to have the feedback of, is your structure a good structure to then, for this specific category or thing that you're going into, right? It'd be like me going to a modeling agency and being like, I really, I gotta walk, I gotta look, I got the sass, like my skin tone's great, I'm gonna do this, it's gonna be great. And then being like, you're 5'2", like, and that's okay. Like I can't be like, but I can grow. Like, I'm done with that. So being able to know what does your structure and what your genetics carry, does that also put you in a position to do really well? And it's, guess what? This doesn't make you less than. If it doesn't, it actually just makes you a friggin' adult and responsible and being reasonable about your expectations. There's no like shame in you being able to say, actually, I have a smaller torso. So on stage, my short torso, I'm very compacted here. I have long legs, but a shorter torso and a little boxy. So me put up to like bikini competitors, it doesn't really fit that criteria. And I can't really change that. Maybe my posing can help me a little bit and maybe I'll tweak things a tad, but this is what I'm working with. And like, how can I enhance the areas of my body that I have? And will that be enough for me to be able to do really well if that's like what you want to do, if you really want to place well in it, right? But I think it's being just an adult and saying, what do I got?
Ooh.
Who wants to be adult? Who wants to be adult? Logical, reasonable thinking. Yeah.
I mean, like, yeah, sometimes you kind of get that at a show, right? But that's where I think the objectivity can come back in, and we take a step back, because some people at shows, they'll lose and be like, oh, the judging was shitty, or oh, they didn't even look at me, or oh, X, Y, Z. But, I mean, you've been to plenty of shows. I've been to more shows than I can even count anymore. And it's like, there are some times where, like, you have somebody that's just good. They just fit it. And when you put them next to somebody like me that has to do all the little things to kind of even be in the same wheelhouse, like, there's still that vast difference. You're like, it's that other guy.
Yeah.
Right? And so... And I think it's hard to accept that. Like, oh yeah, that other guy is just, they fit that better. Because we normally say they're better than me. They're better than me at this one thing, right? And to be fair, down the line, maybe my kids, I'm not going to have kids, let's be real. But if I were going to have kids, my epigenetics, because now that I work out and I'm more active and I have more muscle, if I have kids like that, my kids are going to be more after that. And down the line, maybe the Bogrand family will be a really high-level bodybuilding family. Maybe we can do that, but it's not now. And just because I lost a bodybuilding show doesn't affect my worth in any of the other things. So, we have those opportunities to be like, okay, am I seeing the ceiling? But I think because it's the glass ceiling, most people choose not to see it. It's just like when, hey, we're going to a show and we're going to a program and we really want to be competitive and win our class and get good feedback from Sandy and Tyler and do all the things. But what if the next Laura Lee shows up? Right? We had an expectation of this, and the next Laura Lee shows up, and even if you're really, 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 really good and you're ready to go pro and all this stuff, if the next Ashley or Laura Lee or Jen or whoever shows up, I mean, fat chance. They're just that much. They're just there. They're what they're looking for. And so now we got to come back again and do it again, and that's what I mean. Like at that higher level, it really just it becomes very evident in terms of like, okay, cool, like this person just, their waist is smaller, their glutes are just bigger or rounder, or they have better shape, and they've done all the things. And I think there are positive influences and things we can do to tweak that. We can work on growing the upper and the mid glute more. We can work on the tie-ins. We can work on not growing the quads and growing the hamstrings and posterior and whatever. But like at a certain point, you're still. I was 135 pounds when I dropped out of high school at 18. I was never going to be a Mr. Olympia style for what the current standard is. Never going to happen. It's just not realistic. Yeah.
The detail, I think sometimes people also forget that, like they'll get too wrapped up in things like the second that they should feel confident in themselves. I want my competitors to feel confident in themselves, but then they'll say, but my shoulders were bigger, but my waist was tighter. And I'll be like, but it's the totality of it that you need to look at. Like, I need you to zoom out for a second and look at the totality of that body that was next to you, that placed a little bit higher than you. And no one wants to lose, but when we're able to like zoom out a little bit and look at the whole body picture and see it from a judge's perspective, I think then you can realize like, okay, like just my last show, I was the leanest on stage. I definitely had her beat muscular wise, but my midsection, I didn't have as much belly control as I needed. As simple as that. And I had to just say, wow, from the totality of it though, she had all of the markers, like a little bit higher than me, all of those markers. And that's okay. Like being able to just realize it and remove yourself away from your ego for a second and be, again, reasonable.
Which that's actually pretty normal for most women who have had children.
Yeah.
Is their core control is not going to be the same.
Yeah.
And so some of them do a great job and really work it well. But I've seen plenty that they do all the work. They do the pelvic floor work and they do all the stuff. And it's still just not quite the same. Like that can, having kids can do damage. It can rip connective tissue and tear things open, right? Diastasis recti. Those things can happen. And that, so there's varying levels of that. And that wouldn't even be like uncommon. That's really common.
And I would say too that is something I think is important to always. So you might have structure now, like we talked about the glass ceiling and everything. I may have had great structure and really good balance and symmetry and all the things that were required, and then I had babies, and so structurally or my body has changed, right? Like things have changed, and I have to be able to say I may have had all of that then, but I'm a different body now. And so things that I have to realize that like maybe I need to look at my expectations, be realistic again, and say, how have I evolved and changed after having babies?
And I do think the sport has done some good things for this. Like, you have master's classes, right?
Right.
So when you get into the master's divisions, things start changing, particularly for women. Like, more of those women are going to have had kids. So maybe we do have, if we had a C-section, we have maybe some scar tissue there. Or maybe we have some of the, the stretch marks or the other things that come from, just a pregnancy. And so now you're not going against a bunch of women who maybe are still very young and don't have any of those considerations yet. They're just not there in life. So now the playing field, so to speak, is a little bit more even. It's the same thing as the argument for, I think, the natural shows and natural divisions and leagues. Is the playing field is more even. I think that those are good things. That's why they have multiple divisions. Like fit models should be less muscular and a little bit less detailed, and bikinis a little bit more, and then figures a little bit more. So you have these different kind of categories and places where you can try and fit in. That goes back to class selection, right? But at the end of the day, it's still bodybuilding. And it doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. Some people need the carrot on the stick. Some people need the motivation to kind of push themselves into some uncomfortable things that will benefit them in the long term overall. And bodybuilding is, I think, amazing for all of that stuff. It's like, great, competitive bodybuilding, man, like, I'm just having a hard time getting over that hump. But if I put a bunch of money down, because I know I'm cheap, I'm going to do what my coach tells me. And I have a reputable coach, he's very good, and now I'm doing better things with how I set up my meals, or the food choices that I'm making, or all these things. And so now that I've been in this for 6 months, I've established a habit, and now it's easier for me to maintain that long term. I've seen why I can enjoy delayed gratification, or having a long-term goal and feel really good about the fact that I'm making progress towards it, and the eventuality of what that means. But like, there are still non-responders to training. There are people who don't put on muscle when they go into the gym. And so you got to think it's a bell curve. Most people are kind of in that middle ground, right? So all of us find ourselves somewhere on that curve. Whether it's directly in the middle, maybe a little above, maybe a little below, or maybe all the way on one end or the other of the spectrum. We could even be an outlier. But we tend to know that. Back, when I was a kid, we referred to those guys that were normally on the football team as corn-fed. They were just big boys. They had big bones, they had big muscles, they had big wrists. They were just, they were just born to be big.
That's too funny. I think it's important to also say, like, when you know that you've kind of reached your ceiling, or like you've done it, you're realizing, okay, realistically, this is where I'm kind of capping off right now and I'm okay with it. To be able, this is what you were saying in the beginning, like, you should probably have things that you're still involved in so that you can go into those things now, because I do feel that people are like, but now, like, what do I do? Like, they're like lost little puppies and they don't know what to do with themselves because they haven't been present in other areas of their life. And it's okay to say, I think I'm done over here and I can shift. You can change different things, right? Like, bodybuilding will forever be something, bodybuilding in quotations, building your body will forever be something that you can do. The extent to which that direction goes is up to you, right? And up to expectations and what's the criteria. So it doesn't mean you stop working towards goals. It just means that, like, maybe the show isn't one goal that you do, right? But you have to be able to say, now I'm going to shift a little bit and redirect and still have that vigor or that passion that, like, you once had in the very beginning. I think people feel very lost sometimes.
I think it, to a large degree, goes back to the all or nothing thing. When I realized that my career, quote unquote, as a musician was not going to go where I wanted it to go, I didn't sell all of my music gear. I didn't say, I'm done. I didn't stop listening to music. I got a drum set behind me. I got a bass and an amp and some pedals behind me. Like, I got more basses in the other room with my old half stack. And, like, I still play. I don't play all the time.
Right.
But I still play because I enjoy it. So it's just like, I don't think there's probably ever a time where I'll 100% say, I'm done. I'm never going to the gym again, because I just still enjoy it. Mm-hmm. Even if, maybe even in the moment, I'm like, you know what, man, I'm not about it right now. Right? I really want to focus on some other things and put time into other things right now. And that's where I think people have a hard time with bodybuilding. It's like, oh, well, am I still a bodybuilder if I only go to the gym 2 or 3 days a week? Am I still a bodybuilder if I don't get on stage and compete? And I think that's where, like, that ego and that elitism kind of comes in. And I remember that coming up probably, I don't know, I'll say 8 to 10 years ago, where it's like, oh, well, you're not a bodybuilder if you don't compete. If you just go to the gym, you're not a bodybuilder. I was like, I think you misunderstand, because all the bodybuilding happens in the gym. None of it happens on stage. That is zero bodybuilding. Mm-hmm. So, like, enjoying bodybuilding means I enjoy going to the gym, lifting weights, doing resistance exercise, trying to put on muscle, trying to get stronger, those things. It has nothing to do with dieting and getting on stage.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Being able to realize that is so important for people to recognize, like, I can still set a set of goals, and I can definitely still pose like I can send check-in pictures in a bikini pose if I wanted to. I don't ever have to sign up and put teriyaki sauce all over my body. Like, I'm good to go. I can still have goals wrapped around what, like, competing might look like. I can still have those goals, but I don't have to step on stage. And and
I
and
feel
also
so.
that's not it doesn't have to be my only identity either.
I'm like, I feel so stupid. I've been putting teriyaki sauce on my food and eating it.
I know it goes on your body. You didn't know that?
I've been doing it all wrong, all wrong. Yeah.
I think
Well, yeah. So
people do get lost though, and I will absolutely. I mean, I share this in a lot of the command the stage when, like, I felt as if, like, what do I do if I don't compete? And speaking with Doug Miller and being like, girl, what do you mean? Like, there's so much more to life than just stepping on stage, and him kind of giving me that, like, gut check of, like, oh, you're right, there's so much more going on. And I think there's, like, you have your own pressure, your own narrative or ego, or what you, like, pull. You should have a lot of energy going into that if you want to be successful in bodybuilding, right? But it shouldn't be your everything. And then also, I think that outside sources sometimes will influence that too, being like, hey, when's your next show? Are you getting ready for another show? What are you doing next? Like, almost reiterating, like, this is what you do, this is what you have to do, this is the next move. Instead, being able to say, actually, I'm just chilling. Or not even having people, if they're not the person, the actual client or the person, individual struggling there, maybe for other people to realize sometimes it's okay to ask those people too, how's everything been going? How are you going after any other endeavors, like fitness adventures that you want to do? Maybe taking responsibility as, like, the outside person too, or the family member or the friend, and focusing on other parts of their life will also help that person.
Yeah, and I think this is one of the things that, and again, we kind of went over it, like, it gets lost when you're in prep because it can be really overwhelming. And so, like, when we're in prep, it can be easy for me to maybe not come over and sit down and play music as often. And if I don't do it as often, and that lasts for a long time, eventually it starts fading out and fading out and fading out. It can be easy to be like, oh, well, I'm really tired and I'm already doing a lot of cardio, so I'm not going to go to jiu-jitsu. Right? I'm not going to go do this other thing that I like that's a big part of my life. Or tennis or basketball or XYZ, whatever. Or I'm not going to do that anymore because it's not optimal for bodybuilding. Quote, 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 right? And so now these things that maybe really added a lot of value to our life, pieces of our identity over time, they start to fade away. And the hard part about that is, like, they're still part of our identity, but when we don't view ourselves that way and we don't see it, identity should change over time. Like, there's never a point where I'm going to be like, okay, something as pivotal to me as music in my life is ever going to not be a part of my identity to some degree. And that's where the bodybuilding thing, I think, gets difficult for people. Because one, it overtakes a lot of the other things, which makes it hard to say, okay, well, I'm going to go back to the other things that I used to do because I haven't done them in forever, and now I'm going to suck again, and yada, yada, yada. That makes it hard. But it's also like, oh, well, if I'm a bodybuilder and that's who I am now, I'm this fit person or fitness, yada, yada, whatever, which we want to have some degree of that in our personality and our identity so that we, do good things for health and for longevity and all the other fun parts of life. But it's like, that doesn't mean that I have to be in the gym 5 or 6 days a week. It doesn't mean that I have to compete every year or every other year. It doesn't mean that I have to do X, Y, Z in one shape or form. There's a lot of different ways that can exist. Keeping muscle and maintaining muscle is significantly easier than putting it on. So, I think that a lot of people also have a hard time with that. Well, if I don't keep doing this, who am I? And we just don't have to keep forcing it all the time like that. We can give ourselves a break. We can take time away. We can do all those things. And I think this is where the machine of the sport and the money comes in. Because, like, yeah, if I'm a show promoter, I want as many people doing my show every single year as possible because it's money in my pocket. I want it, if I'm a organization, I want as many people signing up for my organization and paying that fee every year as possible because that's money in the pocket. That's business,
Mhm.
right? 101, we want to grow the business. And that's where we have to be able to take a step back as the individual and say, okay, am I doing what I'm doing in the way that I'm doing it because it's good for business for somebody else and coaches too. Oh, maybe I push a lot of people into competing all the time because that's good for my business. If I have a lot of people on stage and have pictures to post and all that kind of stuff, that's good for my business, right? Am I doing this because it's what I want to do and it's what's good for me? Or am I doing this because there's some external influence in there, which, by the way, they're all very good at it. There's a whole business behind taking data and how we were marketed to and what's put in front of us and algorithms and all this other kind of stuff and the psychological ways that we can get people to make decisions and influence them in that way. Like, is it maybe some of these things? Do I actually care that much? So, like, the hard part is seeing people put years of their lives into something and then being like, the fuck did I do that for?
Yeah, oh, that's the worst. Uh, a quick, super quick story, but I remember my husband saying to me, I hope that those years that you invested in your shows and competing, and I had great success in them, it delayed our start of a family. And for him, he really wanted to start a family much earlier because I didn't have Ravenna until I was 32. So I delayed that knowing what the sacrifice was going to be. Like, I invested time and years. I don't regret it. I'm very happy. But I find that there are some people that are like, oh my gosh, I just invested 10 plus years into like this competition world. And what did I gain from it? And I hate hearing that because I'm like, ugh, like I know that you've gained something. Like, let's work through that. You've gained something. But it is disheartening when people are like, wow, what did I give up? And all those years for this?
So I think that's where it gets into like what was the expectation? Like where is our ceiling at, right?
Right.
So if my expectation, and this is what I feel a lot of people have from my interactions, is that their expectation is that if you win and you go pro and you do all this stuff, all of a sudden your life has changed, right? All of a sudden now people are throwing money at you. Everybody's like telling you how great you are, all this other stuff. And like, realistically, that's just not the case.
No.
Most people that go pro are going to have the same following and everything else. Most people will probably forget that you went pro after a couple weeks. Nobody at the restaurant's going to ask you if you have your IFBB Pro card and then give you either a table at the front of the restaurant or back in the corner. You know, it's not going to be that way in terms of like your seats at the theater or anything else. And realistically, most people who make money off of the bodybuilding industry, it's not necessarily from being a competitor. I make my living off of the fitness industry. Bodybuilding is a big part of that. My money does not come from me competing. Can it help with marketing? Sure. Can it give me good pictures? Sure. Can it prove that I've walked the walk and talked the talk? Sure. But my income comes from coaching. It comes from helping other people get more fit, lose weight, get stronger, learn how to track macros and do that stuff. And yes, get on stage. And so I think that this misconception about what is that going to give me is a big one too. Because most people who get into it end up going into the industry in some way, shape, or form. But then you have other people that they compete and they might be pros and good pros. But they have a job that's completely separate, right? Like maybe they're a veterinarian, like Just Fit Vet. Great example. Career completely separate from the sport, right? So how did the sport change her career or life? It probably didn't at all, right? It's this extra thing that she does for fun.
Right.
And so I think a lot of people fail to recognize that. And then also, like, just because you were a pro or just because something else, like, it's not a instant gimme, right? And so this idea of the life you think that you're going to get because maybe you got an IFBB Pro card, or because maybe you got top five at a show or something. I find for most people that's not reality.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's changed too, because that was never discussed, or even like, well, obviously social media has like intensified so much since like the Yorton Cup that I won, right? Like, we're talking a long time ago. I feel
I
like,
think about 2010 or behind, or like before that, even the 2000s, right? The
yeah,
2001s. Nobody knew who most bodybuilders were. Like
right?
maybe you know who Ronnie Coleman was, maybe you knew who Jay Cutler was, but it was this fringe thing.
Yeah.
And nobody was like, oh, cool, like, I'm going to make all this money off being a bodybuilder. Now, granted, the world has changed and social media has changed it. Nobody ever used to say that they were going to be a Twitch streamer or an influencer either.
Right, right. Yeah, you're so right. I remember thinking, because my coach at that time, when I won the Yorton Cup after the show, he said, I want you to be careful now, because so many people are going to start reaching out to you and wanting you to like be a spokesmodel or like advertise their product. And I thought, what are you talking about? Like, that wasn't even in my like mind. I was like, I'm so confused. What do you mean? Like, I plan on going home and like being with my husband and like going to work. Like, I plan on actually going back to work. That has changed so much, where people are now thinking like that's kind of in their mindset of like, oh, I'll get more followers, then I'll be able to have a sponsorship, and then I'll be making the big money. And like, that is, it's almost like when they go to sign up for a show, there's more influence around that too, and like that is more, there's praise around that too.
Okay, so let's do the math. Or I'm just a few Google searches here to look at the chances. So approximately 0.76% of all Instagram users have over 1 million followers. Okay? How many people on Earth? Over 8 billion.
Right.
Not everybody is on Instagram, but that's a pretty small amount.
Mm-hmm.
So realistically, that idea of how many people can be an influencer, like, it's pretty limited in the grand scheme of things. It's not a large possibility. And I feel like most people who are going to be influencers or really popular on social media, they're going to do that regardless of whether or not they get on stage.
Right.
Stage isn't going to be the thing that propels them. I think it's the other way around, if anything. Like, the influencers, the people with large followings, absolutely can propel the sport. I don't feel like the sport, because those people have eyes on them that are not involved in it, right? So if I'm The Rock, well, guess what? I can be a bodybuilder, but because I'm doing all this other thing, I have people that have never even thought about bodybuilding or working out or any of that other stuff. I might have Kevin Hart fans, right, that are following me because of that. But I'm not going to be following a bodybuilding place unless I like bodybuilding, unless I'm specifically involved in that more than likely, or that's something I'm into. And so, yeah, maybe you get some bodybuilding stuff, but the idea that you're going to blow up that much, it's just not quite the same. And I think that's one of the things that probably should get brought back to help bring people into a place where we can be a little bit more objective about, okay, where is my top end on this? Where do I see this going? Because there are entirely too many people out there that think that they're going to make a living off of bodybuilding or maybe even fitness in general. And I'm like, yo, dude, it's not what you think it is. It's harder than you think it is. It's a lot more work than you think it is.
You might find yourself in debt.
It doesn't mean that you can't do it, but most people aren't going to be willing to do it. You'd be a great competitor and a shit coach. I've seen a lot of them. A lot of people who are great competitors and just dog shit coaches.
Mm-hmm.
You can be a great coach and a shit competitor.
Right.
You know? Which one's going to pay my bills? Which one's going to, and what is my expectation of that? Because if I have the expectation to go to the Olympia and I'm getting started at 30, guess what? I'm probably fucked right out the gates. Right? I'm probably behind the curve on that one. Mm-hmm. Unless I've been doing a lot of stuff that was in that same kind of wheelhouse already.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
I just feel like there's a lot of these roadblocks or kind of things that come up that dissuade people from being able to take that objective look at where they're at, where they say they want to go, and how realistic that is. Because there's also the idea of how much work is that going to be.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people get into bodybuilding, they're following fitness people, they don't have any idea that that person's been doing. People thought Liver King was, and I said this last week, I'm pretty sure, they thought Liver King was natural. Like, seriously, dude? What? So, say you spend 10 years trying to look like Liver King and not doing a bunch of steroids, and apparently methamphetamines or whatever the hell else he's doing now. Like, you're, nope, not happening. You're like, man, why isn't this happening? He's totally, like, nah, dude, you have to also know the reality of what the situation is. That's one of the other things that, like, frustrates me about, I don't even frustrates me or concerns me or is difficult about when people are like, I want to look like this person. It's like, why don't we just look like the best you? You don't know what that person's doing, what they have done, how long they've been doing it, and any rest of the stuff. And you have different parents anyway, so it's never going to happen.
Right. The tell me more. Tell me more about this. Yeah.
Man, I hope we have depressed everybody thoroughly.
No, I feel like we haven't, maybe, but no, I think it's important to be reasonable, realistic, and we've talked about this many times, put your emotions aside for a second and be logical about things. And guess what? That is responsible to do that. And that's okay.
Yeah. How much, here's a good question to finish off, or to be our last thing. How much did you win when you won the Yorton Cup for bikini? So, like, one of the biggest natural league shows that there is in the world, right?
So funny.
$3,000.
That was it.
Did that pay for your prep?
You know, I think so. I think it like paid for my prep. I think it paid for prep, coaching, suit. Like I went all in on, and a photo shoot, and like, but that went away pretty fast. Like,
and that was, and granted, a lot of the shows, yes, it's a little bit more pricey. I think it was like $50,000 for Bikini Olympia this year.
Yeah.
Like $50,000 is not a lot of money. If that's your only payday for the year, that's not much.
Right.
Like I said, the act of competing itself, what you get from a show, and that's before taxes, and Sam takes his cut, right?
Right.
So I do think that for a lot of people, they have to take that step back and look at, oh shit, like what do I live off of right now?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. What am I gonna have to take away? How much of an impact is this going to have? Even if I was at the very top, at most, impact on my life financially.
Right.
And what that's going to give for me. And is it going to be like an investment? Because if I am opening a business, I'm going to have to, maybe I need to pay to get an LLC with the state. Maybe I need to pay for a website and do blah, 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 whatever. Right? What's the investment that's going to take as well?
Yeah.
Because depending on that level, like Mr. Olympia, guess what? You're going to have to do a lot of drugs. Guess what? Those drugs aren't cheap. You know, somebody has to pay for them. What's that investment?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So maybe they make $250,000, but how much are they having to spend on all the other stuff too?
Right.
Right. So there, I just think there's a lot more considerations.
You should lay it all out there. Lay it all out and like really have somebody to have that open communication with you and be very honest. Like be very honest. I would want anybody, if like I wanted to start jujitsu, I wouldn't want you to be like, yeah, let's go. I want you to tell me.
I damn sure want to put you in a competition first, like right off the bat.
I would want you to tell me everything involved. Like, be realistic and say, I think you should just go to one. Like, I think you should just go to a class and, like, you should probably just watch it for a second.
I don't think you would like jiu-jitsu personally. It's very intimate.
It is very intimate. I'm not a tiger.
Right? And that can be a very uncomfortable situation in general for everybody, but women in particular.
My husband does jujitsu, and I'm always like,
yeah.
He'll be like, let me just show you one move, and I'm like, don't, please don't.
Jillian gets tired of me always like putting her in, not like putting
I
her
do
in
a lot
something.
of like, he'll do, well, because he's also in long.
It's called grit fighting, my friend.
Yeah, he'll do wrist stuff, and I'll be like, what? Like, that's the only thing I got is my wrist moves.
Yeah. But yeah, and then like say you are going to be somebody that's going to be a world champion. You're going to be a LeBron James. You're going to be a Messi. You're going to be something like that. It's going to be very real evident right off the bat. You're going to have immediate success, and everybody's going to be telling you about it. So that may also be, I'll say, my last indicator of the day of do we have what it takes to go to the Olympia? Where is our ceiling of where we should find it acceptable to be like, man, we really accomplished a lot here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you got some thoughts, Danica? Oh, I see it. Let's go. Bring it.
No, I think that was it. I think that was it. I think people should go after what they want to go after, but don't do it blindly. Like, just be really intentional and smart about what you're doing. And it doesn't mean that you're giving up on things or your dreams or anything like that, but you should be able to set realistic expectations for yourself and be okay to do so without it like hurting,
ruining it for you.
Right.
Like like, oh, I know I'm never going to be Mr. Olympia. Oh, well, I hate bodybuilding now.
Yeah. And also, really quick, you should also say to yourself, like, just because you were really, really good one time doesn't mean you're always going to be good every other time, right? So the reason why I say that is because just because I won a world championship way back when doesn't mean that I should have my expectations be that I'm going to win all the shows from here on out. Like, you should always be resetting and being realistic about things and saying, like, now what am I bringing to the stage, or what am I bringing to these goals? What variables are involved now? Like, you should be able to take a step back all the time and reevaluate.
Well, I mean, the standards changed, since then as well. That's another thing is things are always changing with the sports.
Yeah.
And I think he said it well, because I think a lot of people will listen to this and be like, oh, they just don't think people should compete. It's like, no, that's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, I do think people should compete. I think it's an awesome thing. I think it can provide a lot of really amazing things. I just think that when we compete, we are benefited by having the right mindset and expectations and outlook on that. Because the way that we introduce or get into that experience and live that out will have a really, really big impact on not even just the success of that experience, but because of what kind of experience that is, a whole slew of other things in our lives. And that's where I think it's so important to be like, okay, cool, I know I'm a Debbie Downer a little bit here, but it's because this isn't the only thing. It's not, like, even if it's the only thing right now, it won't continue to be forever, right? And so I want to make sure that I'm helping support you the best possible for the entirety of your life, your being, your personality, whatever. So, like, cool, if this is the right decision, great. If we need to make some tweaks to our mindset about it and how we're looking at it or our expectations of it, great, let's do that, so that it can be a net positive, not just for bodybuilding, but also for our personal relationships, our growth, our professional relationships, like those things as well.
Yeah, 100%. I don't think that we would be good coaches if we didn't have those honest conversations with you and show you all sides of everything.
All right, and we went a little longer today, so that makes up for last week's shorter.
Sure does.
Take that, everybody. Take that, Christina at Disneyland. All right, so if you guys have ideas for topics, please comment, like, subscribe, let us know. If you have mean things to say, engagement is engagement. It helps us in the algorithm. Put some hate on here. Let us know. And we will talk to you again next week.